I call the honourable member Chris Ockenvold.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to speak
The question is that the question be. The question is that the question be agreed to. The honourable member. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I rise to speak in favour of progressing the Sullivan birth certificate bill put forward by Louise Wall to Select Committee. This bill would require the Register General of Births, Deaths and Marriages to record the details of Rowan Sullivan's deceased mother on her birth certificate. I'm grateful to be able to follow Louisa Wall in speaking because she gave a very full explanation of the complexities of the bill. And it's always difficult when there are a number of names within a bill to consider just to see exactly where the threads are. And so I make no apology, Mr. Speaker, for pretty much repeating much of which the House has already heard, because I think it won't hurt to hear it a second time. The bill is a reminder as well that the government can and does have a very big effect on people's lives at a very personal level quite frequently, and that it's paramount that we in this House do not forget our duty to handle these cases with deference and understanding. With that in mind, I'd like to again thank Ms Wall for this continuation of the important work she did on the Definition of Marriage Amendment Act 2013. Indeed, it's pertinent to note that if Ms Wall's bill had been in effect during the lifetime of Rowan Sullivan's birth mother, this situation would not have arisen and the bill would not be needed. Rowan Sullivan's parents from birth were Diane Sullivan, her birth mother. Her father was a donor who is anonymous, I understand. I'm getting agreement from that. And Diane Sullivan's female partner, Doreen Shields. Diane Sullivan died in 2010 when Rowan was 17 years old. Doreen Shields had chosen not to adopt Rowan while Diane Sullivan was still alive, as this would have required the removal of Diane Sullivan's, the birth mother's, name from Rowan Sullivan's birth certificate. It took me a little while to try to work out why that was so, but that is the way the law works. Doreen Shields instead applied to be an additional guardian. That didn't alter the birth certificate. It gave the parenting effect that was required, but unfortunately this expired on Rowan Sullivan's 18th birthday. Doreen Shields then applied for an adoption order following the death of Diane Sullivan. The order was made on the 15th of January 2013. However, the order required that Diane Sullivan's name, the birth mother, be removed from Rowan Sullivan's birth certificate. Had Diana and Doreen Shields been able to legally marry, they would have been able to jointly apply to adopt Rowan. If this had occurred, they would both have been named as her parents on her record of birth. This may appear on the outside, Mr. Speaker, to be a minor issue of bureaucracy, and in a way it is. In a way it is. But it's these little things which console us, because it is little things which afflict us. We who have those occasional afflictions, and we who know that our parents are labelled as such on our birth certificates, still can't claim to understand the emotions this would raise by having them excluded from a birth certificate, but we can be understanding of the desire to have this fixed and to have one's parents properly and respectfully reflected. That's why I'll be voting in favour of progressing this bill to Select Committee stage. I'm a great believer, Mr. Speaker, in the Select Committee process. It is very thorough, and I think it's something that New Zealand can be particularly proud of. And I've seen a few other legislatures which have similar things, but I think our Select Committee process works well, because we'll be able to ensure that this bill has its intended honourable effect, hopefully without creating unintended consequences or precedents for future cases. While this type of private bill is not entirely unprecedented, the particulars of it are. Excuse me, Mr. Speaker. when one's nose is more than just an emblem with a cold. Parliament has effected the adoption of individuals through private acts on 6 prior occasions. 4 acts involved the posthumous adoption of individuals, 1 involved the adoption of an adult, and 1 directed the issuing of new birth certificates for the adopted children. In each case, these private acts deemed the person to have been adopted by the named parents. The effect of this is that the person was accorded the same rights, benefits and status and made subject to the same liabilities and consequences as if an order of adoption had been made by the court. These examples differ from the current bill, which simply requires the details to be recorded on the birth certificate. Progress, Mr. Speaker, is being made on ensuring that this type of situation can be more quickly resolved by the Department of Internal Affairs. DIA, again a very efficient, in my view, a very efficient government department, is currently making changes to its computer systems to enable same-sex adoptive parents to be included on a person's on a person's birth registration entry. These changes are being made to support the implementation of the Marriage Definition of Marriage Amendment Act 2013, which will come into force on the 19th of August this year. Birth, deaths and marriages registry staff would therefore be able to add Diane Sullivan to Rowan Sullivan's post-adoptive birth registration entry, and for 1 or more new birth certificates to be issued showing those details in line with this bill's requirements. This is great news for those who, like Ms. Sullivan, want to pay tribute to their parents by continuing their lineage in the eyes of the state. Where the Select Committee stage will be vital for the success of this bill is in the realm of clarifying legal requirements and processes. As the bill focuses only on making a change to Rowan Sullivan's birth record, it's not clear, Mr. Speaker, at this stage what effect the bill would have on her ability to list both mothers as her parents on the notice of her intended marriage civil union. It's also not clear what practical legal effect progressing this bill through Parliament will have, other than simply obtaining a new birth certificate for her own personal record. In this case, Mr. Speaker, this may not be a significant concern, as Diane Sullivan was Rowan Sullivan's biological mother. However, there is a risk that this could set a precedent for other proposed bills where a deceased individual has not indicated an intention to adopt. If the Select Committee becomes aware of other people in similar circumstances, the committee will need to look closely at whether greater action is required to address these further cases. In spite, Mr. Speaker, of these minor technical matters, which we will seek to address in the Select Committee, I wholeheartedly support the goals of this bill and look forward to working with Ms Wall and my colleagues in the Government Administration Select Committee, if that is indeed where it is intended to go, and to ensure that we appropriately allow Ms Sullivan to correctly represent to the state the names of those 2 people who raised her and who are her parents. Mr. Speaker, I commend this bill to the House and call on all members to do the same. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker.